Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today we're back on with the old Quickshot USB joystick conversion. Now I've done a tiny little bit of work to the board. If you notice, this is the board that we did in the last video, and I've removed that capacitor which was previously on this side here, and I've just put it over onto this side. As you can see, I've also desoldered the USB cable. You'll see that'll come apparent why I've done that in a minute, but one of the main reasons is that now leaves that back side there completely free of anything. So what we can do is we take some of my ridiculously strong 3M tape. Just get some scissors out. I can't find some scissors, but there's a knife here. We cut a couple of strips. Oops. Ow. That's one strip. Do the same again. About that, I think. There we go. Stick them on there like that. We now have a way of securely mounting this board down inside the controller. As I said, we don't want this flopping around and getting damaged in the future. This needs to be nice and secure in there, so that will certainly do it. This stuff, once it's on, it's very, very hard to get it back off. We will make sure that this is right before we stick it down. Right. Anyway, let's get back inside the old joystick. I'm just gonna have to slide it off my mat there. Like I said, these suckers on this one are in absolutely terrific condition. Get the screws out. One more there. A few people have commented, you know, like I said, some people said, why don't I use an outside converter? And I said, the guy I'm doing this for just wants USB out the keyboard, out of the joystick. He doesn't want little add-on boxes and stuff like that. I mean, other people have said, why don't I just do it on one side of it, so I could have a 9-pin DIN and a USB, and be able to switch between being able to use it on a vintage console and on a modern computer with USB with emulation. And you know what, it's absolutely brilliant idea that if you do that, but for this chap it would be absolutely useless. Like I said, he doesn't use vintage hardware, he only uses emulation. So that's why basically we're doing it exactly as we're doing it here, because then it's going to be a proper standalone system just for what he wants. Anyway, we've got inside it now, and we can look where we can basically remove things that we don't need. We're going to take, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take out the cables. But I'm going to actually desolder these because they're really nice long cables, and they will come in for other things. I mean, they're not going to go to waste, them, definitely not. Good joystick cables like that are always useful. Let's get the board out. What I am wondering is where I'm going to have enough room to actually mount the PCB. What we could do, but I didn't really want to do it like that. We've got a few options here now. Let's go over the options. Let's get this board out, and then we'll go over the options for actually mounting the new board in here. Right. Hopefully that should have us. Oh no. Again, like I did on the first one, I always miss that one screw there. There we go, out it comes, and hopefully that should have released the board. And it has. So we'll put the plastics out of the way for now. Now, I suppose one option we could have would be to mount the board there. I mean, it's there's plenty of room in the case that we can mount the board like that in there, and then run these wires up to this PCB, and providing we get everything nice and squared off in there when we close it all up, that'd be fine. But the thing is, what the guy was asking me was whether there was any chance I could add some weight to this. So what I was thinking of doing is cutting a piece of metal to fit in here. Possibly, I don't really want to remove any of these posts because it'd reduce the strength of the actual stick. What I could do is drill a hole in a plate and mount a plate of metal in there, just to give the thing a little bit more weight. Because he was asking about that, whether that would be possible. And if I wanted to do that, obviously I can't really mount that. I could mount it on top of the plate, but then, you know, it's looking messy. So what I'm probably going to do, being that this is only ever going to be a USB joystick from now on, is I might actually remove some of the components, perhaps from down here, and mount the board like in there like that. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to depopulate this part of the board, which isn't a problem. I mean, like I say, it's not going to be a standard retro controller anymore. It is going to be a USB controller, so I can't see any problem with us removing the circuitry there and replacing it with our new circuitry there, and then we can wire in all these to the appropriate points on the board. So I think that's what we're going to do. First thing we will do is we will remove the old joystick connectors. Like I said, I'm not going to just chop all these off. I'm going to actually pull the wires through, and then I can desolder them. In fact, what I'll do is I'll pause the video now, and I'll come back when I've got some of this stuff cleared off, and we can actually start looking at doing the rebuild, because you don't need to see me unsoldering all these, do you? I mean, you've seen people take things off a board 1,001 times. So we'll just pop back in a second once I've got all these bits and bats, well, at least all these bits and bats off here. Okay, and there we go. Now that's taken me, what, about 35 minutes or so just to do that. I've taken, basically I've stripped all the components, all the passive and active components off here. So all we've got is a PCB with some switches on it. And this is the best thing to do, really, because I know it's probably not going to be an issue, but you could have the potential where, say, you had a resistor across two of the contacts that we're trying to reuse, and it could upset this circuit. So basically, I've eliminated all them issues. I've just taken everything, all the components that were on the board are now there. So we'll get them to one side for now. Like I said, this is a much better starting platform for us. And what I've also done, if you notice here, is I've marked where I'm actually going to install the board. So basically the board will go in that way around, I think I've decided to put it. The board will go in like that, it'll be stuck down like that. And what I have had to do is I've just had to get the Dremel and just take a little bit of the material from this board away, just to allow the posts that go through, that screw the actual base on, to actually go in position. I mean, that's no problem. It's literally, we've just taken like the tiniest little bit, little notch out there. It's not touched the circuit at all, and the same there. So we could have really cut this right down, but it would have cut this right down. It would have mean breaking out onto all them tiny little traces there, and it would have been a right pain in the backside to do. That's why I've kept it as one big board like that. Obviously, we'd use this controller with a smaller board. We may have made life easier, but I'm happy with using that as it is. Like I said, it does fit nicely. Now I've put dremeled out them little notches for it to actually sit in there. What I've also managed to do when I strip the cables off is I managed to pull one of the grommets off the original cable and actually thread it onto the new USB cable. And we'll put a little drop of super glue down there and just make sure that's good and solid, and that will, at least for the time being, that will be the USB input cable for this joystick. Right, I think the next thing, basically the next thing we need to do is figure out where all these wires are going to go on here, and I'm hoping I can actually possibly use quite a lot of the through holes that are already here. So basically the next thing is, we need to ascertain where the ascertain where the ground is, which I think I already figured out is this plane here that connects the basically comes off that pin and on that pin. If we go on to there, and then we go where I've just scratched a bit of the solder mask off, we can hear there we seem to have a ground, and we can follow that wire around, and I think we also find it over here. Yeah. And I think we also find it down here somewhere. Is it that one there? Is it that one? There we go. So that is definitely our ground point. So we know where our ground is. So we're going to mark that. Just get a pen. We'll put a little line on there. So we know that that's our that's going to be our ground. Next thing we need to do is then work out where we're going to actually connect from the switches. Now, I have already done one, which is we just connect this onto ground again, like that. This switch here, if we go to a point right down over here, and we press that switch, I've got the right one there, have I? It's a bit tricky to do this with just two hands, I must admit. Is that the one? Is it that one? There we go. We can see we've marked that with a little bit of marker pen there, so we know we've got a connection there for that button. And then it's just a case of going around the board. That's up. Try that one. I'm feeling this one might be down. And it is. We've already got that one. Let's find this one. Anyway, you can see the idea. Basically I have to go around the whole board until I find, so we know that's there, we can trace it round, and I think we can find it there, can we? Yeah. So that's basically what I'm going to do. So join me back when we've figured out exactly where all these where these are, and we'll just mark them out with a bit of black marker pen where we need to connect, and then we'll have to decide whether we're going to drill some new holes through the PCB to solder these wires to, or whether we can perhaps use some of the holes which are already there. So join me back in a second as soon as we've found that out. Okay, first off, apologies folks, I honestly thought I'd pressed the record hard enough on the camera, but obviously I hadn't, and I've just been working away to myself for the past 45 minutes. But as you can see, I've actually got it all wired up now. So basically we've got the board mounted down there. This side here is the direction control, and for most of the parts actually I've managed to use pre-existing holes. That was one advantage of taking all the old components off. I've actually been able to use some of the holes that were there for the components. I haven't been able to do it for all because actually where the board's mounted now we've covered over quite a few. So what I've done where I've not been able to do that is I just took the took a PCB drill like that and drilled a hole just to the side of where the track I was interested in is. Cleaned a little bit of the mask off and just soldered in there. So we've got a couple of points there where I've had to do that. Like I said, for the most part of it, I've been really lucky, and I've been able to use existing. Let's put this back into position. I've been able to use actually existing holes, like here. There was a diode there, and actually both points of the diode correlated to where I wanted to connect some switch wires. So that worked out really, really well in that point. So I think the next thing we're going to do is we'll get this mounted back in the joystick, and then we can have a look at connecting the USB cable to it and actually seeing whether this thing's going to work or not. I'm sure we're probably going to have to revisit it. I'm not sure. I'm pretty certain it's not going to work absolutely perfectly on the first attempt, but we'll get it back in the joystick and then we can actually play with it a bit. Let's just make sure these are lined up so they go where I want them to. There we go, that should be over there, not over there. That's in position. And we can drop the modified board on, and this is its first like proper fit with everything done to the board. Let's see, is that going to line up? That's missing its switch. That switches in. That seems to line up, and that clips in. Right, let's get some screws in that. What have I done with the screws? Ah, there's the screws. So it's a lot easier to work on then once we've actually put some screws in here and it's held in position. I don't have to hold it in position with my finger. First screw in, like that. And I'll put a screw here. Screw up here. Okay. So we've got a screw position. Put one down there now. Put it held there. For the most part of it, honestly, when the case goes back, it clamps it together quite well anyway. I think, was that a screw hole we've got for the one there? I think that's a screw hole up there. There's one screw hole that we can't put back in because it's literally right underneath where that board is, but honestly where it is I don't think it's going to cause a problem at all. Put you in there. That screws in okay. Like that. I think I actually had this one wrong last time. It's actually meant to go in there. I think I had it somewhere else. But we'll put that back in there because that holds that. Not that that's actually going to do it. That's the only switch I haven't been able to connect up and actually do anything with. The other two switches actually, I've got, I don't know what they're going to do yet, but they are actually connected up. So the turbo, fire and slow motion are actually connected up to the new controller down there. So I think that what the next thing we will do is we will take the USB cable. We'll just see how long we're going to need this. So the fortunate, like I say, I've used the grommet there is actually off the old one of the old connectors which ran into this board. So let's get that about the right size. What I'm hoping, yeah, we can even pull that back even more. Let's get this to where we can solder these wires on. That's going to be okay. And what I think I will just do, just take a cable tie. I will probably just put a tiny drop of super glue on there just to make it even more secure, but for now we'll just put a cable tie on there. That will prevent it from being able to pull through. That's nice and solid now. So all we have to do is solder these back on there, obviously on the opposite side to they would have been originally, but that shouldn't be a major issue. Just got to make sure we solder them in the right places. So we've got ground first, which is the black wire. So let's just tidy that up there. Just solder that one on. Like that. And then we've got the green wire next. white one. And then we've got the red one. There we go. And this can be slotted in like that. That can lay nice and flat in there. And there, hopefully this should be pretty much it. Now obviously I will have to fill in the old hole there where the second player's lead would have been, but we can leave that for the next installment. First I just want to get this back together and let's actually see whether it's going to function on the Mega Drive emulator that I've got on my little laptop here. Let's stick the screws in. To go in there. There we go. That's all back together. As we can see, we now have a getting on for 30-year-old joystick with a USB cable coming off it. So let's see whether this thing's actually going to work. Get that off there, and that's not a bad long length of USB. We'll just unplug that. We'll plug it into my my laptop here. Don't know if you can see that. Can you see that all right? Just come up a bit like that, and I have. See if we can get this working okay. Now what I will have to do, I think I'll have to configure, like we did last time, we'll have to configure under options, let's go set config, and let's go to controllers, and we've got 3-button pad, let's use keyboard, let's try unplugging it. I think we have to actually shut the software down and restart it with the USB device actually connected. I don't think it recognises it otherwise. So reload the software. We're just using Fusion here. There's Fusion version 3.67. Sorry, 6.4. So let's go File, and we'll load the Genesis ROM. I've only got one thing just to test on this little laptop. It's not really a brilliant laptop for options, for running games and stuff, emulators and stuff like this. It's only got a little Atom processor in it, but it's okay. Controllers, and let's hopefully see if we've got it this time. There we go. We see at the bottom 3 USB gamepad. So let's select that and let's define it. Right, now it wants us button direction or keyboard to use for up. So hopefully let's press up. And it changed on there, so let's press down. Let's press left. Alright, so left isn't working. So I think we are going to have to do some extra work on this. Let's try right. What? Right isn't working. Oh. I wonder if we play with a couple of these switches, see if they make a difference. Let's try left again. No, so left worked that time. Let's try right. No, we're not getting a right to work there for some reason. So we're going to have to... Oh, there we go. It's done it this time. Little bit on the rickety side there. So we're going to have to readdress that. We're going to have to readdress left and right. But now it's asking us for button A. So we press button A, button B, button C. Press the button you want for start. So let's hit start. I don't know whether this is going to work, but let's try moving these, see if these do anything. No. So I think up to now that's all we've got really, so we can press enter on there, enter, we don't need any of them buttons. Hopefully we can play, at least get Sonic to work now, and we'll see. So we hit press start, start works. So we've got well, at the moment pulling down is making us run forwards, but we are going to have to do some more work with this, because like I said, we haven't got our left and right working correctly yet, but I don't know if we've got our fire buttons working yet either. Let's try. Ah, yes, they are working. So our fire buttons work. So we can look up, we can run forwards. Well, we've got enough to play Sonic anyway. So in the next video we'll have to address these few little issues, find out why these buttons aren't working, but I don't think it's going to be anything too major to look into. I better stop playing that, or else I get this is the only problem when I start playing Sega things. I get more interested in playing the game than I do with actually talking on the video. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. So as you can see, we now have the board installed in the controller. It's quite neat. So all we've got to do is do a little bit of fault finding now. Discover why left and right weren't responding the way they should. That's really the major issue, is sorting out left and right, and then we can have a look at some of these other buttons and sort them out. But start is working the way it should. A, B and C are working the way they should. Like I said, up and down, well, when I was messing about, I've set down to run to right, so I'll play with that. So like I said, in the next video we'll sort out some of them final little issues, and hopefully we can have a final video with this all finished and up and running, and hopefully the new owner of it will be happy with the progress. So I want to leave it there for now. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.